I've made a lot of carvings over the past few years, and each of them I've tried to see how much detail I can get with just some wood and some simple tools. And some of them have even been fishing lures. So today we're going to take a step back and carve one of the simplest glide baits I've ever made. And not only is it the simplest, but it is the best swimming glide bait. Let's get started. I'm hoping that if I can keep things as simple as possible, I can hopefully replicate them a little bit easier. And then I can kind of tune it and get it to swim the way I want it, and then make multiple of them. While everything is still square, it's a lot easier to cut this angle. So now we can move on to the bandsaw. Alright, we got our glide bait nice and cleaned up, so we're gonna go and glue our pieces of wood back on so that we have a nice flat surface, and then start on the top profile. I do believe that is gonna work. Okay, so we got most of the hot glue cleaned up, so we're gonna start working on the bevel now. We're gonna keep the bottom section fairly square, and then this top section will be rounded off a little bit more. So my plan is for the top section to line it up with the tail slot, like that. And then on the bottom section, we're just going to do a much smaller bevel. And that will just make it a little bit more square and hopefully give us a little more room to put the weights. because I'm lazy, I'm going to use the power sander. So we're just going to go and round it all off and get it nice and smooth. Alright, there is our Glidebait nice and sanded and smoothed out and rounded off. So next we're gonna add some lead weights. We're gonna hot glue various sizes in different areas of this bait and then put it in a tub of water, and we're gonna see just try and get it to float the correct way that we want it. So I think what I'm gonna do is I've got this bigger weight. I'm gonna put that there, put a smaller sort of counterbalance weight up here, and then one little bit larger weight back here, and then we'll see what that does. I suspect I'm probably gonna have to add another weight, but we'll see. So what we're gonna do is just melt some hot glue, glue the lead in temporarily, and that way we can see how it's gonna float before we drill the holes into it. Okay, we'll see what that does. So we got a tub of water. So we'll just go ahead and plunk it in and see what we got. Obviously, I'm gonna also have screw eyes and wire and all that stuff, but this will give us a pretty good idea. Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. So that's a pretty high up float, so I think we'll try adding this bigger weight, see where that gets us. I feel like I still want just a little bit more weight. That didn't work out. That's pretty good. I think I like that. Okay. So now we're gonna finish cutting this section. Probably need to make that bigger so I can add a tail, and then maybe we can test it out here soon. I forgot to hit play, but you didn't miss much because I just drilled holes. So this isn't the tail we're going to be using, but it's a good one to test it out with. Then these marks are where we're going to make our sections for our hardware for our hinges. Okay, we'll take our smallest drill bit, and then we're just going to drill a hole as much down the center as we can. So that's what we're dealing with. Definitely need to clean that out a little bit. So then we just make some marks here and here. We can take it and line it up with our front section, and then go ahead and continue our marks. Ah, son of a. Okay, there's our hinge. Got all of the screw eyes. Doodly 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 doo. Let's go give it a test. It's definitely a little bit waterlogged. Let's sink in a little more than what it should. We're pretty happy with that. Sorry about the massive mess on the table, but our bait is nice and dry from testing it. As you can see, we got the eyes drawn on and the incredibly complicated details that we have to carve. Yeah. So you can see I drew an X on the eyes just to find the middle, and then we have this Forstner bit. We're using that because it's got this little point that we can make sure we get it lined up with. That is pretty even Steven on both sides. So now we're gonna carve the gills. That is as detailed as we are getting as far as carving goes. Good part is we can get much more detailed during the painting process. So we're gonna go ahead and seal it just with a water-based sealer, and then while that is curing, we're gonna work on our tail. Okay, those are just hanging on some screws, so we'll let those cure. But in the meanwhile, we've got this very thin cutoff that was just excess from when we cut our original pieces of wood for this bait. So we're going to use it to make a tail. Okay, so we've got our little stencil here from our template. So just go ahead and get that drawn on. Okay, so I think we can just kind of score it and then snap it in half. At least I hope. Hopefully it doesn't splinter and mess it up. Yep. Alright, I did what a non-idiot would do and just cut it out on the bandsaw. And it actually worked. Who would have thunk it? It didn't splinter. So we're just gonna go ahead and continue refining the shape. Probably end up using the Dremel actually, because that's probably gonna be the smarter idea. All right, that is the thinness we need to get this to before we start carving in our details. Okay, so this is what we have so far. You can see I had a bunch of fin rays drawn on, but I thought it might look a little goofy if I have a nicely detailed tail fin and hardly any details on the actual bait. So we're gonna go and thinking just maybe leave it like this, just nice and smooth. I'll sand that out obviously, but I think it might look better if there's not a ton of detail. I swear it's not because I'm lazy. I literally carved this from wood. I like detail. So I think I'm just gonna try to quickly seal it with some good old super glue. That should be extra smooth. Okay, so we went ahead and made a mold box, and we're gonna try something different. I don't really feel like waiting for the silicone to cure and then do the other side, and then you gotta wait for silicone to cure again. So we're gonna try to make it out of hot glue. No idea if this is gonna work, but we're gonna try. So we're just gonna take some oil, paintbrush, and then we're just gonna go ahead and make sure and coat everything. Try to make sure that the hot glue doesn't stick. Let's see what we got. It's definitely gonna be pretty thin. Probably should have put more hot glue on it, but I'm interested to see how much cleanup it's gonna take to get all the clay off. Clay doesn't seem to react very well when things get hot. It gets kind of soupy. I mean, there's a few air bubbles, but that's not too bad. So what we'll do next is just put our tail back into the mold, build the Legos back over top of it, and then get everything oiled up, and then squirt hot glue on the other side. But we're gonna see how that goes, because obviously heat makes hot glue melt, so not sure if it's gonna melt to itself. Hopefully if I put enough oil, we won't have that problem, but we'll see. I'll be honest, I am so surprised. It literally didn't stick at all to itself. It stuck more to the actual tail than it did the hot glue, which is very surprising. That's what we got. Not the most incredible thing, but for not having to wait, not too bad. So we're gonna try to cut in a sprue at the end of the tail, and then I guess we're gonna test it out. There is our little opening. So I guess we're just gonna put some rubber bands around it and mix up some silicone after I do some cleanup. Okay, got our silicone in a various assortment of dyes. Let's get a tail mixed up. So for our colors, we're gonna do a nice olive green. So we've got black and we've got yellow. First off, sorry about all the noise going on. It is hot as frick in this garage, so I've got all the fans working overtime. This is obviously a different color than what you saw me pour, but that one I was too excited, so I took it out of the mold beforehand. So, spoiler, that's what it looks like. Pretty dang good. Honestly, I'm surprised. I mean, it's a mold made from hot glue. Did not have that high of hopes, but worked out pretty well. Honestly, this is still kind of tacky, but just so you can see what it looks like. Boom. Look at that. That is pretty freaking good. Yeah, that's still tacky, but I mean, it comes out of the mold super easy. I am more than impressed, but we'll wait to take that out. Also made another tail. It's more like a smoky gray color, but I don't know where it is, so you'll see that later. I also went ahead and drilled a couple holes just to hold the tail in. We got these pins, which those will be trimmed later, but next step is gonna be to fill in the weight holes. Epoxy putty is the shiznit. So we're just gonna take us a lump. What I like to do is just kind of roll it into a ball, and then that'll make it easier to make sure I get the same amount for both parts. Pretty nice looking balls, I have to say so myself. So another thing, it helps a lot to have water, just because at least this particular epoxy putty is very sticky, so if you have water you can kind of smooth it out with your finger, and it'll give you less work having to sand it and stuff. Also, sometimes I will get my hands a little wet when I'm mixing it, just because it usually ends up sticking to my fingers. Attach that. pretty good. Now we wait. Also, I don't know why I do this, but I've got like all of my extra epoxy. Make it into a nice little ball. So probably one day this thing's gonna be as big as my noggin. Ball. Okay, our epoxy putty is nice and cured, so we can start smoothing it out and getting it even with the rest of the body. I went ahead and backed out all of the screw eyes except for one. We're going to hit this with a black primer, and then it'll be ready to paint. Probably not going to take you guys with me. Use your imagination. It's a rattle can. That's pretty much it. Everything is nice and dry, and we have our gloves on. That means we are ready to paint. But just before we paint, we're going to go ahead and glue in all of our screw eyes. So I know there's varying opinions on what to use to glue in screw eyes, but we're going to use super glue. I have yet to have any issues with super glue, especially with gluing it into wood. Also going to have to clean up my workspace apparently, because there's a lot of dust, I guess. We just got to make sure and I spit on it. Got a little bit of super glue in some places I didn't want it, but that shouldn't make much of a difference. I'm gonna wait to glue in these screw eyes just to make sure I can get it all good and tuned up and make sure it's swimming the way I want it before I actually glue those in. Let's get to painting. I think I'm gonna go with a shad pattern. It's looking like a pretty shadly-like Glidebait, so I think that's what we're gonna go with. I don't really have any reference photos. We're kind of just gonna make it up as we go, but we're gonna start off with this white pearl, which I'm not sure how that's gonna go because I think the ball bearings that I used to be able to mix it up, I think they started to rust, so it's more of an off pearl white. So this is kind of what I'm thinking. I'm gonna take our little scale mesh here, cover the whole bait, spray the entire thing with a silver paint, and then probably on the top and kind of around the sides, use a purple pearl and more of a bluish pearl, and just kind of fade that slightly down the side, keep it more at the top, and then we'll go from there. I wanted to kind of have this fade of like in between the scales are going to be darker at the top and then lighter towards the bottom, just to make it a little bit different, but we'll see how that goes. We've got it all nice and dry, so we're going to go and see how well we can get it meshed up. Not messed up, that's totally different. There we go, nice and clipped up. Like I said, I just have silver in the airbrush right now. Kind of the reason for the silver on the whole thing is to give it a bit of a base coat for the purple and the blue pearl. Just because I don't think if I just sprayed those two on directly onto the black, I don't think it would be enough of a contrast. Make sure it's nice and dry before we flip it over. Okay, so now I think we're gonna do, this is silver pearl. I think it's kind of more blue. We're gonna lay that on first. Probably gonna stay around like the lateral line and up. Okay, and we're gonna go in with purple pearl. That is mainly gonna be, I think we're gonna stick towards the top. So gave it just a slight angle downward, so hopefully it'll kind of fade into that blue as it gets closer to the lateral line. Okay, this will tell us if we need to start over or if we need to just keep on trucking with the painting. I mean, I'm actually pretty happy with that. We got a good fade into the blue. That actually looks really good. I'm pretty happy with that. Good deal. All right, we'll keep going. If I just put straight brown on it, it might be too dark to really show up. I don't know if I really want to put a base coat of white. I will say I do like how it's darker in between the scales towards the top. I think that's a pretty nifty effect. So first we need to clean out our airbrush. This is pretty transparent, so this might not show up as much as I want it to. That's not too bad, actually. I kind of like how the brown shows up more on the lighter scales, and then the top is already sufficiently darkened up. I kind of like that. I like it, I like it. Why am I shaking so much? I think I had too much coffee today. I swear I'm not an alcoholic. That's pretty nifty. Not gonna lie. I think I'm a fan. So usually I would darken up the top, but with us keeping the top already dark and not putting any scales down, it kind of organically already did that, so I don't think we need to worry about that, but it is looking pretty shadly. I'll probably hand paint the little gill slit that we have and just make that red. I think that'll pop out nicely, but other than that, we really just need to add the black spot, that trademark shad spot. So I think we're just gonna take our original template, find ourselves a hole punch, kind of like that. Give her a good old whacking. So that's what we got. We got our template, and we can use our pre-existing eyeball and our little gill spot. We should be able to get it all to line up pretty easily. Boom. Shad spot acquired. Voila. Dang. That is a shad right there, I tell you what. Honestly, I think what I might do is put pearl white back in the airbrush and just slightly fade out the scales towards the bottom. We'll see what that looks like. Like I said, I'm making pretty much all of this up. Beautiful. Simple yet effective. That's what we're going for. Now, the very final step, eyeballs. So here's some eyeballs that we made, some lure eyes. If you want to see the exact process of how I made those, check out one of my other videos, because I will show you how. Boom. Oh yeah. Now that is a shad if I ever did seen one. So we're gonna go ahead and get this sucker clear coated. Alright, before we do the final reveal, we're gonna go ahead and demold what I think we're gonna use for the tail. We've done a couple different colors, but I think this is probably what we're gonna go with. kind of see it in there. Tell you what, I am rather impressed by this hot glue mold. Ka-chow. Just a simple gray tail that requires some cleaning up. It's time for the reveal. Boom. Look at that freaking bait. I mean, the scales turned out perfect. I don't think there is a single thing I would change. Super easy bait to carve, hardly any details in it. But as you're about to see, this thing freaking swims. So let's test it out. I mean, that is just about perfect. It's got just a very slow sink to it, which makes sense because it just kind of barely floated right before we painted it, so. I mean, that is probably, definitely the best swimming glide bait I've ever made. So I kind of prefer a little bit of chop to it, and I played around with it a little bit off camera, but if I were to back the screw eyes just a little further, it would glide just a little bit more, but once you start chopping it, it kind of starts going a little crazy. You can see right now though, I mean, she chops, that is for sure. Very slow sink. Honestly, that's perfect. She's still got some glide action to it, that's for sure. I also just wanted to quickly show off this other one that I made. It's a nice bone color glide bait, which I've heard works pretty well. I believe that is it for today's video. If you've stuck around to the end, I very much appreciate it. If you would do me a humongous favor, like this video, subscribe, send it to a friend who you think will like this video, that would help me a ton. For whatever reason, the amount that YouTube has been suggesting my videos to other people has gone down a lot, so if you could do me a favor and just send this to one of your friends who you think would enjoy this video, or send some other videos to them, that would be a humongous help. Thank you all, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Peace.